And let's just face it, folks, some people just ain't that good at that. Dare I say, there are scores of individuals who lack. What's up, my elites and my geeks? It's the first Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means for those of you who come here on a NUMENERA basis. It is RPG Elite Philosophy for Life. We're getting into this and how to apply these same philosophies that we have been on for over a year now. How to apply this to your life. Now, if this is your first time coming to the channel, first let me welcome you. I'm your boy, Servant of Shiloh, and this place that you have stumbled upon is RPG Elite. It's the place where I focus on putting the RP for tabletop RPG back into RPG. And I do this by giving you tools and tips and tutorials and have a little bit of real talk like we will be getting into today about the tabletop RPG space and culture. Now, just to give you a quick recap, if this is your first time, is that the RPG Elite philosophy is something that's pretty much proprietary to this channel. I have done a whole bank of videos on the RPG Elite philosophy. And you can go down in the description below and you can click on the playlist and go through whatever you want to go through, all 10 of the qualities that we have covered when it comes to tabletop RPG Elite philosophy. But I've flipped the switch on this with a new series that takes those very same qualities and applies them to our lives. Because if the RPG Elite philosophy is supposed to be something that's supposed to make your tabletop RPG sessions more immersive and enjoyable, then it will do something very similar if you apply them to life. And so we've been going through this series, and we're at the very beginning of this series with RPG Elite philosophy number 3, which is RPG Elites are not rules police. Now, some people like to say rules lawyer. I like to say rules police because the people that I'm talking about, that is exactly what they try to do. And we'll get into that further on as we go into this video. So let's get into understanding how to apply this to our lives. And then on the other side, like always, I got the question of the vid. So hang in there with me as we go through this. So let's do this with a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And we're rolling them. First, let's look at the attitude of someone who is a rules police. So these people are always about the rules in a tabletop RPG context, right? So they're about this rule, that rule. No, you're not supposed to do that. Oh no, this rule on this page and this rule on this page. And sometimes these people, it just seems like that's the only thing that they bring to the table. A lot of that stems from insecurity. And there's a little bit of virtue signaling going on there too. Their self-worth is at a low level. They're not comfortable in their own skin. So they try to prove their self-worth in the tabletop RPG context because up here with the creative part of it, they're not that good. They can roll dice with the best of them because it doesn't take anything to roll dice. What it actually takes to make a story come alive in a tabletop RPG context takes imagination. It takes creativity. And let's just face it, folks, some people just ain't that good at that. There are scores of individuals, might I say, dare I say, there are scores of individuals, and I would say maybe even a majority of individuals in the tabletop RPG space who lack this creativity and imagination. The whole RPG Elite perspective is about mindset. And it's about mindset, not only in tabletop RPGs, but in life as we're talking about here. But when it comes to that, mindset has to do with being creative and feeding that creativity or strengthening that creativity. Well, these people don't do that. They go ahead and they begin to say, okay, well, in order to prove my worth, because I'm not really creative, I'm not really imaginative, even though they kind of maybe won't say that in their minds, but that is the reality of the situation. So their worth is in low-level role-playing and trying to bring everybody down there all of the time. That is an expression of insecurity. At the extreme level, because there's different levels of this, at the extreme level, it's not just insecurity, but it's insecurity, it's immaturity, self-righteous virtue signaling legalism. It's all of those. Now let's transport this into real life. And what happens with people who have that kind of attitude, that rules police kind of attitude, when it transfers over into real life, they are the narcissistic nitpickers, the know-it-alls, the ones that think that everybody needs to look at them for something. And again, it's not always at the extreme level, it's at different levels. The insecurity is always at the base of this, always, in every single instance of it. Now, I'm not talking about holding each other accountable to what we've agreed to in a session, or just holding each other accountable to living rightly. There's a wrong way to live, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. I know I'm saying something controversial right now, but it's not really controversial. When you live rightly, you live peacefully. You're not always trying to go and rabble-rouse everybody. There's peace that follows you. And if peace follows you, then people want to be around you. And that's an RPG elite thing, but we'll get into that in a second. But these people are always, always, always insecure. And so that's why they do this. And it's like I said, it's virtue signaling, insecure, immature, self-righteous, narcissistic legalism. Well, you know, who wants to be around that? Even if it's on the low end. Now, if it's on the low end, you can actually deal with somebody with that. You can actually say, okay, let's talk about that. But on the higher end of that, you don't even want to deal with that. And that goes to another RPG elite quality altogether, which I believe is the next one. How is that in comparison to the RPG elite? Well, let's talk about that. In a tabletop RPG session, RPG elites have a different focus. They're not about the rules, because what do? What do we all do when it comes to the rules in the tabletop RPG? Come on, all together now. We change them. Ixnay some of them, or add what we did want in there. So that is always on the table. And the rules are framework. That's it. But what we're trying to do is create an experience in RPG Elites, as it says in RPG Elite Quality number 8, so it'll be some time before we get there, but it is about the story. When it comes to the rules for us isn't anything but a framework to build a story. And we're going to be focusing more on the story. And if there's some rules that get in the way of that, they got to go. And if there's some rules that need to be tweaked as a result, then we'll tweak them. How do we do this in real life? In real life, everything isn't a battle to die on a hill for. We understand this because life is short. And that's one thing RPG elites understand. Trying to get into everybody else's business or trying to be an insecure and putting that insecurity on other people. No, we are more concerned about some things that help to foment a life that will be enjoyable. Number one, a life of forgiveness. Yeah, when people actually offend us or actually do something wrong against us, yeah, we're willing to forgive. And I'm not talking about the automatic forgive that people like to do, right? Not for me. And not for most RPG elites maybe, but I don't know if you want to apply this to life. But how I deal with forgiveness is like this. Oh, I'm willing to forgive from my heart because I'm not carrying that baggage. You ain't that important.
Emotional, damn it.
But when it comes to actually our relationship, oh no, we gonna hash this out. It's not gonna be one of those things where we just sweep it under the rug and it just happened. And then the next time you see one another, oh, it's all just hunky-dory. Nah, I don't operate like that. Now we gonna deal with this right now because I don't want this to happen again. So we gonna deal with it. And if you don't want to deal with it, then I understand how to treat you as an individual. That changes the relationship. It's not that I haven't forgiven you. It's just that, okay, you don't want to deal with this. You don't want to be a grown-up about this. Fine, that's on you. But our relationship has just changed because you refuse to ask for forgiveness. I'm not saying I'm sorry. Y'all know, y'all probably caught my video where hey, I'm sorry, don't cut it with me. I'm sorry, don't cut it, because I'm sorry is just telling you about your emotional state, which I care nothing about. But asking for forgiveness is actually taking responsibility for what it is that you've done. And so RPG elites, in order to make life simple, not carry around baggage all the time and all the rest, we just forgive. We move on. We also have this thing that those on the high end of the defective level don't have. We extend two things that are very important in order for a society to really function in any kind of peaceful way. We extend grace and mercy. Grace is unmerited favor. Mercy is having compassion on somebody even though they deserve it. Let me put it another way. Grace is getting something that you don't deserve, and mercy is not getting something that you do deserve. One, over here, grace is a positive and mercy is a negative. So RPG elites, when it comes to life, we want to extend forgiveness, grace, and mercy, because these are the things that go for a peaceful life. That's why we don't have drama. It's not like we're not going to get down and dirty with it when we need to. We'll try to avoid it as much as we possibly can. Now, again, this ties very closely to the next RPG elite quality, but we'll get there when we get there. But if you want to have peace and you want to think of you want to have some self-worth, right? All right, then what you need to do is not focus on yourself so much and focus on other people and extending grace and mercy and forgiveness. Maybe not trying to prove something all the time and just chilling out. Just living. Now, I know everybody has different things going on in their lives, different backgrounds, different problems, and you always have to deal with that when it comes to living. But there are some things you really don't have to deal with if you want that peace. But we start at the place of least resistance. Forgiveness, grace, mercy. I'm not talking about not holding people accountable. I'm not talking about that. Holding people accountable is necessary if you want to have a society that is comfortable and beneficial for everybody who's involved. I'm not talking about that. That needs to be done. What I'm talking about is there's these situations that we don't blow up like some of these people do. Every little rule, every little law, every little thing. And these people also happen to be, in real life, they turn into gossipers, okay? Being around those people it's not good. They need to call them out on that stuff when they do that. Be like, yo, let's not do that, right? You know, let's just live. Let's have a peaceful, let's have an exchange, a social exchange where it could be beneficial and a good experience. But as you know, there are a lot of people in the tabletop RPG community who don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to social interaction. This is why people kind of stay away from tabletop RPGs. It's not because of the actual concept, it's because of the people.
Oh, snap.
That have gravitated towards it, because these people are socially awkward. Let's keep it 100. Socially awkward, or really socially inept, emotionally disconnected. So even when they get around, a group of people, they don't know how to connect with them on an emotional level. You can do that as a dude, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that, but you can. And you don't have to be weak about it and wimpy, but you can still do it. I didn't know if you knew that, but it is what it is. So as an RPG elite, to keep things on a peaceful level, an enjoyable level, a cordial level, then we kind of focus on these things that'll foment this in the least resistance first. As I said, forgiveness, grace, mercy. Now, if that don't work, then we've got to go in a different direction, which we will deal with in the next video. Hey, if you got any value out of this video at all, maybe you learned something. Most of these videos tends to hit on things that people don't like to think about or never thought about, not in the context that I'm putting it in. But if that's the case, then do a brother a solid and crush the like button right there. Also, if you want to stick around, then feel free to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. God willing, I come out with videos every Tuesday and Friday, and we're going to increase that a little bit, just a little bit, next year when we get into memberships, but that's all I'm going to say about that right now. All right, let's get to the question of the vid. Had you had to deal with these rules police in your life? And how did you deal with them? And I want you to be honest about this. Maybe you did not deal with them in the way that they should have been dealt with. Because sometimes, like I said, some people need to be reachered, or some people just need to be put into their place verbally. Or maybe you overreacted and you did not extend that forgiveness and that grace and that mercy, and it just blew up into something bigger than what it should have been. Or maybe you did have a good positive experience in your handling of one of these rules police in life. Let me know down in the comments below. That's going to do it for me, folks. I got to get out of here. Thank you so much for indulging me for this small amount of time. Your boy has got to get out of here, so let's do it.
So exit, stage left.
If you have any tabletop RPG sessions this week, hey y'all, happy gaming. I pray it is an RPG Elite session, and until next time, go ahead, hit these videos right here. And until then, peace, 5,000 leaks. Your boy, he out.